Okay, for my first needle review, I'm going to be talking about Picks Zephyr interchangeable tips. These are the latest tips from Picks introduced in 2009. They're made of acrylic and are in between the harmony wood and nickel in grippiness. If you've ever used casein needles, these feel almost identical, which I'm a fan of because I like casein needles, but they're kind of hard to find. These needles only come in interchangeable tips. Picks doesn't carry fixed circulars, DPNS, or straights in this material, but oddly, KnitPro, which is Picks' UK distributor, does carry those. I don't know why Picks doesn't. These are the cheapest of the interchangeable tips, starting at about $3.99 and going up to $6.99. They come in sizes 4 to 17, and again, only in interchangeable tips unless you're in the UK. There's also no sock sizes in any of the needles, even KnitPro. For what I like about the tips, they're the most comfortable to use. They're more comfortable to use than nickel without being a whole lot grippier. Nickel can kind of hurt my hands after a few hours, whereas these I can knit for quite a long time without really any discomfort. The bendiness in the smaller sizes is also good for cabling without a cable needle, and for cotton yarn. Cotton doesn't really have any give in it pretty much at all, so the bendiness of the needle helps with that a little bit. In the larger sizes, there's really no bend to speak of. This is a size 10, and this really doesn't bend almost at all. And this is a size 6, and it does have some bend in it. The tips are standard Picks tips. They're nice and pointy, but without being too blunt. They're not ice picks. They're not going to hurt too much if you sit on them, but they're not so blunt that you can't do lace work with these, as you can see here. As I mentioned earlier, they're good for doing cables without a cable needle, because of the slight bendiness of the needle. If you do use a cable needle, you'll probably won't notice this. These needles use the standard Picks cable, which I will review in another video since it's a universal Picks product. But if you have other cables or sets already, this will plug right into your set. For what I don't like about these needles, they react strangely to acrylic and acrylic blend yarns. They become very grippy and squeaky, and they almost vibrate as you knit with them. And after a while, my hands kind of tingle. It's like I was driving for a few hours on a bumpy dirt road. These needles also don't feel like they'll last as long as the Harmony or nickel needles, because when you torque them into the connector, they can swivel a tiny bit on this little peg thing here. If they do break, Picks will probably replace them, though, so it's not that big of a deal, but I'm hoping that they last at least a couple of years. Also, the sizes, smaller ones like 4 and 5 might break if you sit on them. So, all in all, I really like these needles, but I wish there were more choices for the type and size. If you do a lot of cabling or lace work, these are great. Especially for lace, because that little tiny bit of grippiness that the nickel doesn't have can be nice for slippery yarns like silk. But if you use a lot of acrylic and acrylic blend yarns, these might not be for you. Personally, the way these react with acrylic yarns doesn't bother me much, but it could easily get on your nerves.